Okay guys, I've got to take a break here sitting on this lovely headland. Hopefully you can see Leggy Point over there behind me. So I was just going to talk a little bit about the models of youth work that we went through in class. So the first model we looked at from Cooper and White from a youth studies article in the early 90s. I know it's a while ago, but it's still very relevant. It talks about the treatment model. This perspective takes the viewpoint that the program or the facilitation would see young people are sick and in need of fixing up. They're broken in some way, they're not fitting into society, they're doing antisocial stuff, they have limited skills, if you like, they need to be skilled up. Give some examples, might be the military style or boot camp style approach. There needs to be discipline, there needs to be structure, there needs to be clear expected standards. So if they're deficient, they have no skills and they would have no input into that program really. They'd be there and be expected to conform and take it all in from the experts. The next model we looked at was the empowerment but non-radical approach. That approach would view young people as having skills and they'd need to have input into solutions. The youth workers would help the young people decide what it is they need out of life, how they need to get there and help facilitate that. Program aims would be things like increasing self-esteem, increasing self-confidence. Not a lot of scope in this approach to changing things that may create that inequality in society, if you like. Think about social justice. Certainly young people are seen as much more valued, have a lot of ideas, have a lot of hard skills to give. Youth workers facilitate young people getting to where they want to go, achievement in career outcomes perhaps or education outcomes, but not a lot of consideration given to the bigger picture where that might be influencing how young people are forming their ideas. So media, for example, not really looking at that underlying causes perhaps of some of the issues. Let's give an example of an empowerment non-radical approach. Could be young people doing a music program and they decide what sort of style of music they're going to do, what they're going to write about, them organise the performances, or it could include art. They go decide on the sort of art they're going to do, how they want to do it, how they want to display it, do they want to sell it. They have a lot of input into what they want to do to follow their ideas or passions in this approach. Certainly much more engaging than the treatment model. The empowerment approach, radical. Come from the perspective that as society there are inequalities addressed, so some groups of society have access to more resources than others. What groups may have less access than other groups, so long-term unemployed, generationally unemployed people living in poverty, people with mental health or disability or other health issues, they would all be at some disadvantage to other groups and may need extra support to achieve good career outcomes or good life outcomes. Things like education systems, the media, politics and laws, they all, from this approach, all function that recreate social disadvantage. So you could argue that laws, things like, I guess, the way Centrelink and that's structured around young people having to jump through a lot of hoops, be in education, regardless of the meaningfulness of that education to them, but just turn up and apply for 30 jobs a week or a fortnight or whatever those structures are. Is that really beneficial to addressing the inequality, if you like? The workers aim to address social inequality through places like the education, law, media. They don't want to act on behalf though of young people all the time or too much. So the tricky part of that is how do you get the young people to take a lead? And there's a theory from this perspective say that the most disadvantaged in the community also are the very apathetic, feeling locked out, if you like, of society, so they don't really care necessarily. Programs from this approach might suggest that education and knowledge equals power, overcome that apathy, feelings of worthlessness and fear of authority. So at some point youth workers move away and the young people would be, ideally they would lead, but certainly an anarchist or socialist approach to change the balance of power in society. What sort of a program might you be running from this perspective? I had to think about this. Let's say they use guerrilla or graffiti art to draw attention to issues of social exploitation that need changing, for example. So they might do a lot of graffiti art on calico, and in the darkness of night might have political messages, and that gets put on prominent places like at the Centrelink office in Mayfield, or the council building in Newcastle, the member for Parliament in Newcastle, the banners might say things like the higher and rising cost of education, high youth unemployment, increasing the casualisation or part-time of jobs, loss of power for the service sector, losing penalty weights on weekends, things like that. Inappropriate and irrelevant courses that they're made to do. The job network providers make them do mindless activities just to keep them busy. These real employment opportunities need to create jobs for young people. So all this in graffiti art that's done on calico, hung up in the dark of night in prominent places where lots of people see it, and so drawing attention to some of the real issues that young people face. And the reality is that it's up to around 30% youth unemployment. So that's real guerrilla style art, if you like, targeting institutions, whether they be government, Centrelink, employment institutions, law, even those institutions that perhaps lock people out. Part B of assignment 1, the consultation tool. So do a survey.
Or talk with your classmates, do a focus group, find out your program ideas, suss it out, whether they'd be interested in attending, what would they like to do, get some input from the participants. Would they like to do a guerrilla style art and still get some sort of qualification? Would they like to learn how to make a noise and draw attention to an issue and get the politicians listening?
Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the scenery so far. We'll do a little bit more riding and keep going. If I think of anything else to say, I'll say it. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.